Hey everybody, it's Strict9 with Strict9 GP, and I'm back from vacation and starting back in with the Phillies playthrough of Out of the Park Baseball 19. I think we're on episode 22. We're into the 2033 season. We are just past the All-Star break, and if you watched the last episode, you know I made a couple of trades that got rid of two of my bigger offensive players. And I knew that we were going to step back a little bit this season. I just didn't expect it would be as bad as it's been. We have really just tanked the last 2 months. And surprisingly, we've tanked offensively. That's been primarily the biggest struggle that we've had. And even losing those guys, I didn't expect that because I thought, we had some guys. Vargas finally came off the DL. I thought we had a couple guys who were going to have good seasons, and it just hasn't played out that way. And we'll look at some standings and some other things here first before we get started. But I'm going to try to make a trade or two before the deadline, but I'm really not sure what I'm going to get for it because I've been playing around with some of the upcoming free agents I have that I can trade, and there's just not a whole lot out there. So what I'll probably wind up doing is just dumping some guys just so I don't have to, just so I get something for them so that I'm not losing when they become free agents. I don't lose anything or everything. So first off, I guess we'll take a look at the standings and how we've been playing. We're dead last in the National League East. And we've been really struggling the last 2 months. After being fairly competitive through April and May, June and July have been really bad for us. In terms of the rest of the league, Tampa Bay is back on top in the East in a big way in the American League. Cleveland, even bigger lead in the Central. The West has been fairly competitive between Rangers, Angels, Astros, but Athletics have fallen off a little bit. Individually, Woodley with Tampa Bay, who pretty much took over for Bellinger when Bellinger signed with Kansas City. He's becoming a really big star in this league. He's having a great year. Pitching-wise, some new guys. I'm not seeing some of the older guys that maybe, Stromain is having a good year. He was Cy Young Award winner last year. Kinsler's still doing good. He's leading the league in batter, wins above replacement. But then in the National League is the Braves leading the Nationals in the East. Pittsburgh having a good year in the Central. And then pretty competitive in the West between Arizona, the Dodgers, and the Giants. I don't see, again, outside of Doughty here, I'm not seeing a whole lot of players that I've recognized, although we do have Perez on our team leading the league in stolen bases, and Cantelme having a pretty decent year. I think I still have him in that fifth starter spot, but we'll look at that here shortly. And once again, Ian Plyler leading the league in strikeouts, still struggling a little bit with wins just from being on that poor Cardinals team, but he's up to, he's over 2,600 career strikeouts. I don't know if he's going to finish with 200 or more wins. I think the guy's got a good chance, though, at the Cy Young in this, the Hall of Fame in this playthrough, mainly because he's won 5 Cy Youngs, and he could be on pace for it again this year. He's, in terms of pitcher wins above replacement, he is tied for the league lead. And then we don't even have saves. The closer that I have, who's been good the last 2 seasons, he's not even leading the league in saves. So we're struggling overall. I'll take a look here first off at our statistics and show you what I mean and how, in terms of how we've crashed. We were above 500 through April and May, and then June 9-15, 6-14 in July. But the big problem is offensively. We are dead last in the National League in batting average, on base and slugging, runs scored, extra base hits. We are double digits or lower, I guess I'd say, in every category except stolen bases, which we lead the league in. And then pitching, we're kind of holding our own for the most part. Bullpen ERA is 6, starters ERA is 9th. A few top 10 finishes there. It's just mainly that offense. I'm really just at a loss as to why we tank so bad. We'll take a look at pitching first. We have had Danny Ude has been up and down. He had a no-hitter earlier in the year, but McSparron's not really getting it done. Yoakum's been okay. He was the guy I traded Sean Barge for, and I've got him for another year, so I expect that unless he wants way too much in arbitration, I expect I'll probably need to keep him just because I need that kind of depth in the rotation. I've moved Medina to the starting rotation. He's another lefty. He's done fairly well, though, since he's been moved over. I just don't like using... He's got 2 great pitches in the fastball and slider, but a pretty weak changeup. And my scout has him as a borderline starter. He wants to be in the starting rotation, but I just don't like throwing a guy in there who only has 2 solid pitches in the starting rotation. But I guess he's been adequate. If I look at how he has been as a starter, 5 starts, a 3.10 ERA, and 2 wins, not bad. And he was definitely better than the other choice I had, which was Lockfeld, who has been even worse than he's been in the past. He's 1-8, 6.88 ERA. He's a free agent this year, and he is the guy I'm going to try to trade. And I'm probably just going to pick up whatever I can, maybe a minor league reliever, whatever I can get for him at this point. I have a few guys in the minors that I could call up to replace him once I trade him. And right now he's just in the bullpen in middle relief. Espinal has been pretty good. He's a rookie. He wants to be a starter as well, but it's the same deal. He only has 2 strong pitches and not a very good stamina. So I expect I'm going to keep him in that middle relief for now. I don't know that he's going to develop into a starting pitcher, unfortunately. And then, like I said, Austin, even having a bad year, his ERA is just below 4 and only 16 saves. But the lineups are, the offense is just really struggle. I've got Mejia, who's a free agent. He's having an okay year, but Vandenhoeven has struggled. Tennessee is not doing that great. I mean, he's got 50 RBIs, which I think is either, he's second on the team in RBIs, but just I don't think he's going to be a long-term solution at starting. Even though his defense is good, his offense is just not good enough. And then I've got some rookies and some guys that I haven't really tested much before this year in the outfield. Cotula and Skylar Dutch, who's been coming off the bench the last couple years, but he's been okay. But Vargas, since he's come off the DL, not doing too well, 242 average. Ochoa 219 average, but he does lead the team in home runs and RBIs. But Kevin Cox he's got a potential of 3.5 stars from my scout. You can see his ratings, double digits in every batting category. Good contact, good potential power, eye, discipline, avoiding Ks. I still think there's some hope for this guy. He's not as solid, even though his individual ratings are still good from OSA. They don't like him as much. But he started to turn it on a little bit, and he might even have a chance, if he keeps it up, for that Rookie of the Month award when July finishes. He's batting .344, 5 home runs, 13 RBIs, 5 stolen bases, OPS of 1.051. So he's had a good month. I think he's got a good chance. Without knowing what some of the other rookies are doing, I think he's got a good chance at Rookie of the Month. But that's how the team's looking. One of the things, of course, that we just had a few weeks ago, I guess now, was the All-Star lineups were announced. And for us, if I'm not mistaken, I think we had maybe a pitcher or two, and that was it. Let me see. Yeah, Kentelme, who made his first All-Star appearance, he's having a pretty good year. ERA is really good. WHIP's good. He's not going to get a whole lot of wins, but that's just the way it happens, I think. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that may have been... No, Mejia did make it. I think he got some votes, maybe some sentimental votes because he's been around so long, and that was probably his, his sixth All-Star appearance. But that was it for the All-Stars for me. Not a whole lot going on there. But what I'm going to do this episode is I'm going to try to see what I've got in trade, and we might sim ahead a few games and see if we can start winning. Even Miami is playing better than us this year. But what I wanted to do was look at the upcoming free agents we have at the end of the season. And on the batter side, it's going to be Ochoa and Mejia. I'm going to keep Ochoa for sentimental reasons. My owner wants me to re-sign him. I don't think he's going to be good enough to re-sign. If I look at what he's wanting, I mean, he's wanting $11+ million for 2 years. I just don't think he's good enough for that right now. But one of the things I'm holding on for, he has 21 home runs this year, on pace for 34. And I really like milestones when I'm playing out this game. I like seeing guys that I've developed or picked up, however, either free agency or trade. I like seeing them get to certain milestones, and he's 11 home runs shy of 300. And if I look at another thing I like to do is I like to look at the team history and the histories of top players all time. And since I picked up this sim in the 2017 season, I was, this keeps up with the entire franchise history. So you got guys who have on these leaderboards who were playing for the Phillies back in the late 1800s. But I think it's really cool if you can get a player that makes it to that top 10 in some of these categories, especially for a franchise as old as Philadelphia. I think that's a pretty big accomplishment when you consider that long history. And for his career, let me get down to the home runs here. I don't know if he's on the slugging percentage. He's not, but okay, for his career, he is third all-time for the Phillies home runs, and he's not going to pass Howard, who's 382. Definitely not going to get to Schmidt's level, but I think it's cool that he's gotten this far. I'd like to keep him around, see if he can hit 300 for me. I think that'll be a pretty big accomplishment overall for this playthrough, to have a player who made it that high in one of these categories. But let's go back to some of these free agents. So I'm not going to sign Ochoa, and I'm not going to really sign or trade Mejia here either. I'm going to ride him out for the rest of the year, mainly because I don't really have anything. The backup catcher that I'm using right now is really not ready for the majors. I was just so strapped for catchers, so not going to have anybody to really trade from an offensive standpoint. But pitchers, I'm going to shop around Medina, and I'm going to shop around Lockfeld. And Carvente he's somebody who's always looked good in the minors, but just for the most part, he had one good year for me, but he hasn't looked all that great every time I've called him up. So probably not going to get much for him. I'm going to go with Lockfeld first because he's the one that I really would like to trade away and get something for. And I'm just going to do typically what I do, which is offer the guy out there and see what I can pick up. So right off the bat, I've got a couple guys here at the top that they're suggesting I need, but Paramo, who's a pretty decent pitcher, but he's fragile, so I'm going to stay away from that. Got a third baseman here who, if he was a little bit better, might be an option over Tennessee at third, but don't like that contract. So I'm looking mainly for guys like Jimmy Preuss, I guess you'd say, or Preuss, however you want to say that. He's got some arbitration years eligible, 3.5 potential for my scout and OSA, but he's listed as fragile. I wonder what his injury history is. It's not terrible. I think it probably goes back to early in his career when he had that big injury that kept him out for a full season. I may come back to him though, but I do like his individual ratings, and he could just, if I traded him right now, he could take up Lockfeld's spot in the bullpen. He wants to be in the starting rotation though as well. My scout says he should probably be a setup man, so he's not thinking he's much going to be much in terms of a starter as well. And then I've got Dave Steed, another guy who's got more years of eligibility, but he's got 4 pitches. But I'm not really sold on his control rating. And let's see. Pretty decent center fielder. I guess I could use for depth, but got some good speed. But I think he's not much of a replacement over what I've got in the outfield. So I got Mike Aiken, who's a free agent, so I probably want to leave him alone. And then Marin from Detroit. The thing about him is stamina's not that great, but he does have 4 good pitches. He's old though, 35. Yeah, I don't think I need to try that one. And then just not a whole lot that I'm seeing outside of that one guy. And I think he might be a good choice at this point. Some 2 and 2.5 star pitchers. So let me see, go back up here. I think that was, let me see, was that Detroit who was offering him? Yeah. Or Boston, sorry. Even though he's fragile, I think I'm gonna try this guy. And that will give me, he'll be around for another year at least. And let me see. And I'll just put him into Lockfeld's spot in that middle relief. And so now I've got Medina, who's also a free agent. Let me see what I can get for him. And I might get pretty much the same offers for the most part. And at this point, I'm only giving Medina $1.5 million. I think I'd be willing to play him the rest of the year. Another good defensive outfielder there, but his ratings aren't that great. They don't blow me away. So still nothing, nothing really much different than what I was gonna get for Lockfeld. Although Steve Francis, another reliever, now he's only really got 2 strong pitches, some issues with his control, 2.5 stars from OSA. I'll probably leave him alone. Ken Drummond, who is a former Cy Young Award winner. But once again, that control is just not that strong. He actually won the Cy Young in a pretty weak year for pitching. So I think that's what I got. I think I'm going to go ahead and tough it out with Medina. I just think I need him, and really, I don't really have a whole lot that I could call up right now from the minors in terms of starting pitching. Although Babone, he was serviceable last year for me down the stretch, but I think I'll stick with what I have. And then I got Tipton, who's probably going to be a call up in September. I don't think he's really ready for the majors full time right now. I also want to look at team chemistry. Overall, we're doing pretty good. I didn't notice that the guy I did get from Boston, he does have a pretty sketchy personality class. He's outspoken, but he does have high leader value. So we'll see if that works out okay. There's nobody disruptive on the team or selfish or unmotivated, so that's okay. Weilbacher is another outspoken guy. But this guy, if he would get his movement up a little bit, he's got some good upside here. Potential 4.5 from my scout and 4 stars from OSA. So let's see if we can go ahead and play a few more days out, and we might get a few trade offers here, and we'll see. I think I'm not going to put anybody on the trading block, but I'll see if anybody offers me some trades there in this last week. But we're going to be starting out at St. Louis, who is last in the Central, and they have the worst record in the National League. So maybe this will be a good place for us to turn it around. And first game, we do win extra innings 2-1. And let me see here. Pete Parker. Wow, I do like this guy. He has some really good ratings. Let me discuss this trade. I wonder what they would give me. Make this work now. They say I don't have anybody who would do it. Let me just still, I don't know why they would throw that out there and then not take anybody. What if I trade a guy like Cox? And they're still not going for it, so I'll just clear that one out. I don't think I'll ruin my team for it. Let's see if there's any big news here. Chicago and Miami make a trade. Verdugo, who's still there at age 37. He's pretty much a journeyman player at this point. And the Cubs got a couple minor league pitchers there. Seattle, Minnesota, St. Louis, and Milwaukee. St. Louis traded Nick Dunn, who has been one of their better players in his career. He's played his whole career at St. Louis. Wow, that's a big trade. And they traded for minor league third baseman and a pretty good pitching prospect. But let's see how we won. Unfortunately, it wasn't the offense that did it. Vargas 0 for 5. Man, we really squeaked out a win there. But pitching was good. Cantelme had a good game. Espinal picked up the save. And Preuss there got his first win for us after that trade. So second game, finally we got some offense going. 15-5. Vargas a great game, 3 for 3, scored 6 runs, 3 walks. Perez a good game. Looks like Cho didn't get a home run, but drove in 3. Good game overall. Medina picked up his 4th win, so he's still looking good in that starting rotation. But Preuss stunk it up there in relief. And any news? Arizona, they traded a former Philly there, Andy Loghead, who honestly had a pretty decent year last year at Toronto after we got rid of him. But they picked up Christian Yelich, who's still playing, but he's on the DL. I don't know what that kind of trade is going to help him. And Royals, Diamondbacks, some pretty like mid-tier type players. So let's see if we can sweep this series against St. Louis, and we don't, lose 2-3. And a big injury for us in the minors, Jonathan Condrey, who I don't think he's going to turn out to be that great of a player. I do get trade offers for this guy because I think OSA, their scouting is really high on him. I occasionally get trade offers for him, but he hasn't done, he's at single A right now, low A. He hasn't done much in the minors for me. But he's going to be out for a month, looks like. So not much going on, although Kevin Cox had another good game. So let's see what he's up to now for the month. 357 now batting average. Still doing really good. Joachim pitched an okay game, but he picked up the loss there. And then we'll get Washington next. Some more minor trades going on. So Washington, they're playing pretty good. They're second in the league. And we're on the road against Washington. Let's see what we can do here. First game, 9-0. But looks like we lost Ood for just a few days. And Perez is going to be minimal just for a day. 9-0 though. That's a good one. Vargas 2 for 4. Perez a good game. Ochoa picked up his 22nd home run now. So he's inching closer. He's 10 home runs shy of 300. Vandenhoeven a pretty good game. Tennessee finally a good game for him. Ood did pick up his 7th win. He stayed in there long enough to get it. 7 solid innings, just 6 hits, no walks, 7 strikeouts. So that's a good way to start this series. We're still well below 500 though. 11 games below 500. And here's another injury. Not a big player though in the minors. But this is Redding, and I do have a couple guys here I'm thinking might have a future, namely Andres, who's just moved up to Double A a few weeks ago or a couple weeks ago. My scout very high on him, potential 4.5 stars. Not as high in OSA, but I like his potential ratings. I'm hoping that he's going to develop into that kind of a player. So look at the news real quick. Another pitcher they're throwing out there for me, and I'm not going to try it at this point. And Los Angeles, New York, some more minor players there. So we got 3 more games against Washington. Lose the second one, 4-5. Another injury, Chris Went. And closer there, better put him on the DL. So Ochoa, great game. Looks like he had 2 home runs in the game. He did. 2 for 4 to throw in 3. Marmolejo, who I picked up at second to replace Barge, was 3 for 3. Pitching wise, McSparron was okay, but Bobby Austin blew his 5th save, and he's only up to 16 saves. Not doing good this year, so I may have to start looking at a different option for a closer after this year. Huertas, who's having a great year. He had 62 home runs last year. So 2 more games left in this series. Let's see if we can at least split the series. And we lose 3-6. Lost another guy, Eddie Loftus. So let's see how that one worked. 3-6. Cox, another good game. He was 2 for 3, but that's about it. Nothing going. Cantelmi had a bad outing for him. 6 runs in just 3 2/3. So now we're at the trading deadline. And we did get a proposal here from Minnesota. They would send Luis Castillo for Vargas. And I know Vargas is having a bad year, but he's really untouchable at this point. I've got a lot of money invested in him, and I think he's starting to show some signs that he might be slipping, and he's signed for a long term, very long term. But I want to give him some more time. That's a long contract. But hopefully he can turn it around. I'm going to reject that trade. And that'll probably do it for me then. I don't expect I'll have anything else come up. Monzar, that's a pretty big trade there. It looks like 4-star player. San Francisco traded him away to Atlanta for Chris Moody, who's got some decent numbers, and a closer there from the minors. Yeah, he's a big prospect according to OSA. So here we are, last game of the series, and can we win it? Nope, 5-12. Holy cow! So let's see how we lost it. Vargas had a good game. Cox a good game, 2 for 4, drove in 3. So his batting average is now up to 260. So that's pretty good considering where he was starting off the year. He had a monster month, 365. Doesn't look like he improved much in his ratings, but still a good year for a good month from him. Medina finally had a bad outing at starting. Preuss, who hasn't looked that great since I picked him up, to be honest. He might not be too valuable to me. I want to look at the player update, and then development update, and then we'll look at how the month ended. So Weilbacher did improve his movement. Improved in several categories there. Rozier went up in some categories. Espinal, he improved in just about every category as well. He just needs to get that stamina up. And Bobby Austin's starting to slip. This is the guy I'm currently using as a backup catcher. I don't expect him to be a starter for me. My scout does like him offensively pretty much, but that's about it. So Vandenhoeven, he's losing some ratings. I think I'm going to have to upgrade first base in the offseason. Kevin Cox, though, he improved. His overall and potential did improve with this update. Camacho, who's just free agent I signed a few years ago, he's going to be I may just have to release him and eat that $7 million for the last year of his contract. Steve O'Neill, Dusty Stern improved a little bit, but Eddie Tipton, he improved quite a bit there. And then this closer from Reading, guy who was a minor league free agent, he might have some upside. He's just a 2-pitch pitcher, but he might work in a pinch like as a setup guy. Eric Hill, center fielder, he looks like he moved up quite a bit in some ratings. But here's a guy too, Juan Padilla. I think I need to move him up to AAA because he has looked so good in the last really since he's been in the minors the last 2 years. Yeah, he's developed really nicely. It's just that his defense is really suspect. And then the rest of the low minors, not too much there in terms of development. So Josh Atkins was player of the week for the Cubs in the National League. Juan Ramirez out for the year. Top batter for the month, Chris Woodley in the American League. Espinoza from Miami in the National League. Juan Lezcano, pitcher of the month. Mike Swan, a closer for Cincinnati, or Washington, sorry. He's probably the best closer in the league based on those ratings. 5-star overall. And then rookies of the month, Josh Tupper and Kevin Cox. He did win it. So at least there's some positives. Weekly team rankings, we're still at 25. Standings, we've lost 3 in a row. We're 46 and 60, so we're 14 games below 500. I think, if we can get close to 500 for the rest of the year, that'll be something to shoot for. I think for the most part, we're out of the playoffs. There's no way we can catch that. And then I just got to hope that I have a good off season. Maybe pick up some players here and there that can help me. I think I'm going to have to, like usual, I'm going to be looking for a number 1 starter. And outside of that, it's going to be all over the place. I think I need to upgrade at catcher. I need to really upgrade it first. Although I am going to go ahead and put Padilla at first for now in AAA. Call him up. He might have some upside offensively anyway. And Tennessee, I don't think he's going to be long term the guy I need at third. And then I'll have some guys to move around. I think Cox is probably going to develop a little bit more so that he might stay a starter for me. Vargas, of course, I'll probably keep starting, but Ochoa will be gone. So unless Tipton is really ready, and he's close, unless he's really ready to take over at right field, I might have to upgrade there. But it's going to be a busy offseason. But I'll go ahead and I might send through the rest of the year. Depends on how we look going into September. If we start turning it around, I might, as I usually do, come back for the last couple weeks of the season. But for now, I'll see how the rest of this year plays out. And then hopefully I don't lose my job. I think I'm signed through another year. No, I got 1 year left. So hopefully he won't fire me this year. But if he doesn't fire me, then what I'm looking at is a pretty decent rebuild, which was what I was expecting. I just didn't expect us to tank so bad offensively. But as always, thanks for watching. I'll probably pick up with the Reds playthrough on the next episode and then be back maybe in a few days with this one to see how we finished up the season. But thanks for watching. See you next episode.